working professionals have a very packed schedule during the weekday, but we're more than happy to share, spend the weekends to pretty much engage and network with all of you. So happy to be here, right? So for the next, I would say 25 minutes or so, I'll bring in some of the latest innovation that we're seeing around us, right? So the intent is how the current decade, we call the current decade as the decade which will bring in transformative experiences, right? Will AI has a role to play? Absolutely, yes. So we'll look at that, yeah? So just so that you know a bit of a background, right? While my intro was read out, I work at the tech center and I get to meet one customer every single day, right? I mean, that's the best part of my job. The reason I say that I get to meet one customer every day is look at the learning that happens to each one of us when we meet a customer. I think bulk of what I'm going to share today is a pure reflection of what trends I am observing in the industry, what scenarios customers trying to solve, and various technology innovation to absolutely complement those use cases in the industry, right? So it's dominantly an industry perspective and innovation that we have as Microsoft. And when I say Microsoft, I'll probably be very neutral in my narrative because most of these technology innovations will have a very profound impact on society dominantly, right? So we'll look at that. Yeah. Again, keep your questions coming in as I speak. So in the end, I'll definitely have 10-15 minutes where I can. So let's look at this, right? While the last 24 months definitely has taught us many lessons, and if there is one shift that has happened and a focus that has come to his customers, I mean, it's always been I would say it's always been top of mind for anybody, right? Customer centricity has been a theme for a long time, but more than ever, the focus on customers and focus on what we look at as experience. I think that's probably has taken front seat more than ever in the current times. And let's look at each one of us, right? As we spend a day, we wake up in the morning and there's so much happening all around us, right? Again, when I say so much around us, it's about ambient computing. It can be a message that we get every day. It can be some of, I would say, the IoT sensors, devices at your home, churning data, making your life lot more, I would say, comfortable, interesting, etc. But end of the day, it is all about experience. See, each of us build application. Each of us bring in AI to influence any outcome. Each of us look at how can we engage our customers better in the B2C world. The underlying thematic is experience, right? How can I offer an experience which will help customers spend more time on my, I would say, application or a property, B2B or e-commerce portal, whatever it is, right? End of the day, it's about experience. Now, if you look at experience, right? By the way, all of us understand that we are entering an era, right? All these days, a lot of people said, edge computing has been a science project for a long time. That's not the case. I think in the last 16, 18 months, we've seen that edge computing has taken center stage in many industries, right? So underlying thematic for all of us to look at experiences, yes, it has to be multi-device, multi-sense. End of the day, I should be able to experience a specific activity or an act or an event on the device of my choice, on the form factor. And second, most of what we'll experience will have some level of intelligence, right, that the system offers for us to have that experience. Number three, of course, anytime, anywhere, any device, which probably is a central thematic in the current times where location independence is central. So with all that, there is a platform available, which we call it as a cloud, right? Of course, all of us understand that, but edge computing is relevant a lot more than ever before, right? I'll bring in a few examples as we go along. My presentation will have a few demos because end of the day, at the tech center, we believe in show and tell. While I may say anything, but it is always good to show what I actually meant and show evidence of how technology is driving some of the key experience in the industry, right? Everything I'm speaking right now is not specific to one industry. I think this is a thematic across industries, automotive or telecom. In the current times, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, truly, it's a hockey stick graph in terms of innovating to ensure, first of all, they reimagine, or rather, they revive the current portfolio of the businesses. Second, reimagine and eventually revive a lot of what they want to do in the current, future, and current and far future, right? So let's look at dominant thematic across every industry, right? So everyone wants to become an intelligence-driven organization. Of course, AI is central here for sure, but what does intelligence really mean here, right? End of the day, I should be able to take decisions which is a lot more scientific than intuition, right? That's one thematic. Second, how can we address agility and productivity, right? So, there was a question asked in the previous session to Abhijit saying, will AI, replace developers or applications? No, not really, but intelligent automation, the power of AI and RPA coming together, that's definitely one solid thematic across the board. I'm sure all of you understand robotic process automation, which was a buzzword till about 3-4 years back, but now it's front and center to everything that happens in a lot of industries. As I said, we live in a world of automation, but autonomy as such, autonomous systems are absolutely emerging, right? I will show talk about an example, but at the end of the day, manufacturing industry, control systems, that's where we're seeing autonomy being infused just to ensure that system operates with utmost focus on the task and also understanding the prevalent, I would say, variations in the surrounding environment, and without without seeking human intervention, ability for them to seamlessly get the job done. Now, one of the as an example, autonomous cars for sure, but that's not it. It's beyond that. Okay. Now, this is what Gartner calls it as hyper automation, right? We've absolutely entered an era where hyper automation is front and center, right? I said earlier, edge is relevant. Yes, solutions that we're building today, solutions that we're going to build for tomorrow, it will absolutely pan across the edge infrastructure and cloud infrastructure, right? The dominant theme is, yes, you need cloud computing to absolutely train your models, eventually deploy to edge for inferencing. So inferencing at the edge is absolutely essential, necessity, and it is real today, right? Thanks to all these, NVIDIA, ASUS, every single one of them are to offer edge computing infrastructure, right? Ability for us to host a machine learning model on the edge infrastructure so that you can infer closer to the way data is getting generated, right? I have a simple example, I'll show that in a little while, but as I said, edge is perceived to be new cloud, yeah? Why do we say that? See, for edge inferencing to be reality, of course, one is edge compute infrastructure. Second, of course, is connectivity, right? Thanks to 5G, in fact, 2 years back, all of us recall that we had a ton of news coming up on 5G, but eventually in the last, I would say 18 months, the news died down, but it has again caught up back again, right? So now, thanks to 5G, ability for us to make inferencing at the edge with utmost focus on connectivity is becoming a reality. Like 4G, 5G will take at least 2.5 years or 3 years for that matter for all of us to have a 5G network on our phones, but industry will not look at that network to innovate. They're going to set up private 5G networks, right? In fact, as we speak, I know a few customers in manufacturing healthcare where they've already started deploying private 5G networks, right? You should understand that in India, it's true with most countries, there is a free spectrum available for experiments to happen on 5G networks. So now, as we speak, a lot of industries have set up, especially manufacturing plant, where they want to do a lot of I would say, there are a lot of scenarios which involves computer vision, right? So they're absolutely setting up private 5G networks as we speak, so that they can start moving forward with utmost focus on making a difference on the shop floor. Yeah. Now, of course, our CEO Satya Nadella said this in one of the conferences recently that yes, there's going to be a 6-fold increase in edge inferencing or AI inferencing at the edge the next 4 years, which is also something which it's a source is Gartner here, right? They made it very clear that yes, this is where the industry is heading. Yeah. So edge is real. It's no more a science project. Thanks to AI and 5G, edge is a lot more relevant than ever before. Okay. So let's look at it. When I say edge, let me show you one quick example, right? This is something which we recently built, right? I'm going to share my screen. I'm switch to my browser here. By the way, I work at the Microsoft Technology Center in Bangalore. Now, what you're seeing here is a real-time graph, right? There are people in the experience zone as we speak today. They are not customers. They're not us. There is a housekeeping activity happening at the premise as we speak. So we defined a zone, right, where people enter with masks a specific zone. So right now, I know there are very few people at the facility. So you're seeing, this is real, right? 11:56, 34 seconds, right? There are three people moving around there. I'm seeing in terms of what's the latency, right? Pretty much, least latency. And the reason why I said edge is a lot more real is because I'm not sending the video feed to the cloud at all. Inferencing is happening at the facility because we have an NVIDIA GPU machine running, which is basically, typically, it's a very, I would say, mobile, I would say miniature rack that we have, where you can move it anywhere you want, so you can put on the back of a retail store also. So what you're seeing is real-time data. There's a access CCTV camera there available. The CCTV camera footage is sent to the edge infrastructure where you have a cognitive people count model running. That's giving you these stats in real time, right? So this is one classic example of how future edge computing will be a lot more real, because all I will do right now is I'm going to send this heartbeat. When I say heartbeat, these are the events that we're capturing. Only events in the cloud for video. Right? So this is where the game begins. This is where we're seeing the acme of innovation when it comes to AI. We'll reflect on a few things. But when it comes to a platform, yes, you look at models, services, and eventually a supercomputer. Why are we saying supercomputer? Because, end of the day, there are a lot of industry scenarios which requires compute horsepower beyond what is available in the cloud today when it comes to spinning a virtual machine. So you need a supercomputer. So can supercomputer be commoditized? That means, do I get space in a supercomputer environment where I can deploy, let's say, radiology, or a cancer treatment-based model to run there? So I need massive compute. Can I use a supercomputer to do that? Absolutely, is going forward, because that's where the industry is heading towards, building supercomputers where you can get that time in a supercomputer running model, right, for training purposes. Now, this is our partnership with OpenAI. I'm sure all of you understand OpenAI. OpenAI, as a group, started to actually solve some of the most profound scenarios in the society, right? They wanted to put AI for good use and solve a lot of what we think is not practical today, not real, and that's where they went after, right? I'm sure all of us relate to the world, the big, I would say, the top of the town model, which is GPT-3. Will come to that. But this has been, our association with OpenAI, where we're talking about how can we collaborate to build large-scale AI models using the power of our enterprise focus as well as the intent with which OpenAI has been instituted, right? So it's all about research. Eventually, you should understand that we're talking about, when we say OpenAI, their motto is to bring artificial general intelligence into the foray, right? We are pretty much talking about 40, 50 years into the future where AGI, would probably be a lot more real. But today, the first glimpse of AGI has come in the form of GPT-3, right? We'll take a sneak peek into that also. I'm sure, some of you would have explored GPT-3 models, right? If you look at this slide right now, yes, there are models, right? Ada, Babbage, Curie, and Da Vinci. Now you can use them to do things which probably were perceived to be science fiction in the past, right? I'll show a simple example of GPT-3, and I've just opened a GPT playground for reference. I'm going to just bring that in a few seconds. But look at it this way. This is the world's largest natural language processing model out there, trained on 175 billion parameters, right? So the power of Da Vinci, right, is to basically create a fiction novel, right? If it has the generative power to create content. In fact, I'm sure the talk of the town was a Guardian essay was written by one of the models, right? Brilliantly, and you could not decipher it's a human written one or was it a machine generated, right? Like a Turing test, you could have done it. But let me show you what is the true power of this model. I'm going to just bring in a playground here, right? This is basically, any of you can go to this website, which is openai.com, in the playground. And I wanted to understand, right, how will the conversation AI is evolving in GPT-3. If I use GPT today, we can use any platform to build a conversation AI chatbot, but that's very, very reactive in terms of it all depends on the data that you have, right? Now look at this model. So it actually asked me, hey, how are you doing, etc. I asked a question. See, human is me asking a question. can you tell me how do I write a novel, right? So AI tells me that, yes, thanks for being very specific, blah, blah, blah. It asks me, do you want to write a fiction, non-fiction, right? And it also asked me, do you have a plot or a subplot? And I said, I don't have a plot yet. Can you help, right? And look at this conversation, so meaningful, so relevant, so contextual. And I was actually very, very, I fell off the chair when these responses came in. In fact, my final question was, do you have a plot in mind? Right? It kept telling me that, hey, I can generate, I can do this, I can do that, I can do in 8 days, blah, blah, whatever. I said, you know what? Do you have a plot in mind? And look what came out, right? I do, it says, and I have a novel, a lighthearted romance, the start with character, blah, 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 right? See, while I'm showing this example, all of us have to be mindful that, yes, there are good side of any innovation and there's a negative side. So, in fact, I highly recommend that you listen to Sam Alters. Sam Alters is the CEO of OpenAI. There's a wonderful TED talk that's out there. Just look for Sam Alters TED talk. He explains the intent behind OpenAI, what they're doing with OpenAI, the consequences of intentional and unintentional usage of these models for some I would say to solve specific issues, right? So it's a brilliant podcast. It's a 1 hour podcast, but highly recommended. You will actually understand where is AI heading, how is AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, going to make a difference going forward, and the true power of these models. Yeah, we move forward. I thought I'll just bring the example, right? Now let's look at. I saw the demo, so let's look at. Yes, by the way, what is the true power of GPT-3? By the way, Microsoft, we're collaborating with OpenAI, and we've licensed usage of or OpenAI APIs in our products, right? Today, there was a question earlier, right, saying in terms of how will AI make a difference. Now, today, look at it. We have a platform called Power Platform, right? That's a no-code, low-code environment. But here, asking a question, show subscriptions of all, subscribers in the US who's, expired on so-and-so date in terms of subscription, right? Now, I'm asking a question in plain English, but it gives me expression which typically is a code. I don't want to write code, right? It's a low code, no code. So I don't remember syntax. So you ask a question, it comes back with code recommendation. In fact, if you want to see a classic example of code recommendation, GitHub announced something called Copilot. To the question earlier saying, will it replace programmers or, you know what? It actually helps programmers in significant ways. So look here, I'm actually, the comment being put here, determine whether the sentiment of text is positive or negative, right? Is the comment I'm writing, but automatically the Copilot is giving me a code recommendation, right? I'm not writing that code, but it's giving me code recommendation, and it's up to me to optimize the code and move forward. But it gives me some I would say best practice code for such a problem, right? So look, I'm also knowing that I defined some variables and there's a function I've created. I'm saying, hey, create category summary. It gives the code right away, right? So this is the true power of how AI will be a lot more assistive going forward. Yeah, that's about OpenAI. But dominantly today, I spoke about one of the models, which is spatial analysis. Typically, I said in people count. You can also do a lot of stuff in the spatial world, but eventually, and when I said edge computing, the need of the hour is to have these models being given to us in containers. That means you can take these models anywhere you want to take, right? Complementing edge computing philosophy, you should have the ability to take these world-class models and deploy to edge infrastructure so that you can do inferencing at the edge. The example I showed earlier is a classic evidence of how basically you look at spatial analysis. This is what we deployed at a tech center, right? This is the one. So this is what will give us the ability to do people counting, social distancing management, people are wearing masks or not, define a zone, a polygon there in that environment, who enters that polygon, I should know an alert. So all the stuff is done in real time using these models, right? So yes, future will have edge computing all over us, and that's where inferencing will happen. Simple example, this is a retail store, right? Counting, yes, it's happening. Social distancing management people. So how do we let folks in the eyes know that, maintain social distancing is a norm? I can do an announcement, right? After identifying some events, I can do a speech to text or text to speech and make that reality. Now look, this is a checkout counter at a store. I want to make sure in this polygon, there should only be X number of people. If X plus 1 happens, I should probably alert the security guard saying, you know what, can you just go and check on this? Because you can't have human supervision all over the place, right? This is absolutely real as we speak today, okay? Now, let's look at knowledge mining. I'm just trying to give you a glimpse of, hey, how far we have come when it comes to innovations and how we're solving these, I would say, these scenarios in the industry. This is an interesting one, right? Cognitive, I would say semantic search. Let's talk about semantic search. This is where with big data, which is volume, variety, velocity, and of course, all these things coming together, the search should be a lot interesting, right? Let me show one example. By the way, all of you should be able to look up in Google or Bing. So just look for JFK files and Azure Web Apps. So now basically, JFK files were declassified sometime back, right? And we thought that's a good corpus of data to demonstrate semantic search. So let me just bring up another demo here for you folks. Now, if you look at, I'm sure, do you know the person who actually assassinated JFK? Why am I not? I'm forgetting that. Hold on. Let's search for JFK only here. Okay. Let's see what comes up. Look at this, right? So basically, the data can be any. The gentleman's name is Oswald. Okay, let me just look at that. Now, if you search for Oswald, right, the data definitely is there in multiple forms. There is an image here. There is a handwritten text. There is a very faint, very I would say, grainy print. And of course, inking on the documents. So you'll be able to look up Oswald across this variety of documents. This is a reality, by the way, right? Look, today in education, if you would have the content or a formula or any kind of a keyword you want to search, that might be in video, it can be in audio or a podcast, it can be in hard documents. You should be able to search across the board. That's a reality, right? I thought let me just bring in this example. I'll give you a very powerful example in terms of how search is going to make a difference going forward. Of course, this can be voice-based, right? Today you ask Alexa or Cortana or Google Home in terms of, hey, help me with this question answer. So semantic search, you can build these things because there is speech innovation has happened significantly. You can all bring in this innovation to the fore, right? So let's look at speech. This is another area, right? Where I spoke about language, we spoke about vision. Now let's look at speech, right? Again, as Microsoft India, we're dominantly solving for Indic languages. That's very critical because in India, if you look at it, I should be able to enable somebody who speaks local language in a tier 2 or tier 3 city to interact with the system, at ease. That's where the Indic language support comes in the picture. Of course, there is translation, there is transliteration also. So both, right? And again, ability for us to look at, by the way, you see 6-7 languages, but 7 more languages in the pipe. So on the whole, 15 languages in India will be made available very soon. But of course, right now, you can use the 6 languages to pretty much build solutions which can be used by the larger population in the country, right? Absolute reality. Now, the best part is, these languages today, using the power of neural text-to-speech, it is a lot more human. It is human-like. It's not a lot more. Earlier, you could make out that it's not a human being speaking; it's actually a robot speaking, right? That's not the context we live in today, right? Today, it is very real. At times, difficult to test it for who is who unless the robot claims who it's supposed to be, right? I want to understand if I can. How do I share voice here? Audio. I've not done it on Zoom. Is there an option for me to share? I'll just play it. Will it just come up? I just want to understand. Is there any button I have to press to play audio to the video here?
So you may play the audio directly. See if it come up soon.
Okay, just play this.
Healthy stock market के लिए.
Yes, sir, it's audible.
Is audible? Okay. So, well, these are all, So these are all, when I say human-like, the right pause, right tone, right full stop, emotions, all the stuff is a lot more real, right? Let me play one last demo for you guys. This is one of the classic demo in terms of, hey, today, if you look at India, we are a call center nation, right? That means a lot of calls happen. I have an e-commerce example, real data, customer grievance, right? Imagine your call center representative is taking this call. how can technology bring in intelligent instructions or guidance as they go along? By the way, this is the aftermath. This is a call log analytics, but this can happen in real time. Today, we work with a lot of customers in the country where we're actually helping them to understand emotions of the customer calling in real time. What should be the response? Hey, recommend this, recommend that, upsell, cross-sell, all the stuff is happening there. Let me play this. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So if you look at this example, it's English, Hindi, English mix, and also understand emotion in real time, can build a word cloud. So this is aftermath, by the way, but we a lot of scenario in the industry requires that, yes, can you build agent assist bots, which will help them in real time, right? This is another example, but we'll move on. I'll take just 3 more minutes and get to it. The last one I want to talk about is autonomous. Most of what we saw was, yes, there is automation in terms of bringing in innovation, but autonomous systems, just look at autonomous systems, Microsoft, there's a platform called Project Bonsai. Project Bonsai is the industrial AI platform. Yeah. Today, when it comes to autonomous systems, by the way, it's powered by deep reinforcement learning technique, right? It's about machine teaching, right? Today, machine learning requires massive corpus of data. All of us understand that the more the data, it's better for us to look at, the system being a lot more intelligent. But of course, every scenario will not have data, right? How can we look at machine teaching technique, powered by reinforcement learning, in action reward system, right? So how can that happen in reality? So if you look at some of the use cases being solved today, dominant in the manufacturing industry, so we'll ignore autonomous vehicles because that's something which has been there for a while now. Now, if you look at discrete events in simulation, so the need of the hour is to have an environment where we can simulate these real world scenarios and ensure, in the world of Project Bonsai, it's called brains. Build a brain in the environment, and before you put it out in the outside world, look at how will it act upon environmental variables and take decisions without human interventions and bring in autonomy. Today, big firms, conglomerates, look at autonomous systems on the control system environment, right? For example, let's say you're a cement manufacturing company, right? So as part of the manufacturing process, you have an evaporator available there. You basically need to bring in. You convert water to the I would say the particles, and then feed that to the system, right? So now energy saving. So can autonomous systems step in and bring in energy saving there? By the way, the energy saving can be in small percent, but comes to keep those burners on, etc., in the control systems, right? So this is real. Just check out autonomous systems, Project Bonsai. There is a environment where you can play around with. Okay, but finally, this is something which all of us should understand. End of the day, while we're building machine learning models, right? When we're talking about AI, responsible AI should be front and center, right? All of us should be very, very, I would say, we should get acquainted with what these are before actually start building this, and after building it, putting out outside world. I think we've got to be very, very about this. So with that, I think I'll take a pause here. At the end of the day, it is about building about a future with AI. AI is here. AI will make a difference in terms of it'll definitely bring in a difference in each of our lives as we go along. But the question is, what will you build as we go along? So thank you so much, everyone. And write to me if you have any question. If you want to stay in touch, you can look up my LinkedIn. We can stay connected there. Otherwise, I'll take a pause. Any questions, you guys look at them and take it from now. Any questions? What is a robot beside me? Yeah, this is called the Misty. Just look up Misty 2 robot. I'm still, have to upload some skills to the robot. So it does speech. It has a vision. It does speech, and it also does some action. So Misty robot is what is all about. I just got it home from office because I thought I'll spend the weekend to just program it a bit. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It does navigation, provided you kind of upload a skill to it. Identifies people. If you identify certain people and the face match happens, it starts speaking to you, right? Yeah. Awesome. Abhijit, thanks for your feedback.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Cool.
We, the AI enthusiasts, were definitely captivated by the potentials AI holds and would love to contribute some revolutionary ideas to it.
I would like to ask everyone to put in their questions in the Q&A section if there are any.
So, now we humbly present to you a token of appreciation on behalf of the IAIS 2022 for the informative webinar that you have delivered. It will be mailed to you shortly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So, thank you for sharing a small fraction of your profound knowledge with us. The link of the attendance is posted in the chat box.
Awesome. Thanks so much and have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Have you ever thought about the origin of the idea behind AI? What is responsible AI? All of your doubts will be solved in the next session. So up next is a power talk on the topic Responsible AI, Past, Present and Future by Dr. Rizwan Ahmed, CTO, Dilaplex Nagpur, India.